welcome to Biohacking Beauty Podcast. We have a special episode for you today. I'm, of course, Amitai Eshel. This is
Anastasia Khojaiva.
We are the co-hosts of this podcast and the co-founders of Young Goose,
Skincare.
the skin optimization company. Today, we have a really cool guest. Her name is Dr. Jennifer Berman. She's an internationally renowned urologist. Some of you might know her from her award-winning series, Berman and Berman, and as the recurring co-host on Emmy award-winning The Doctors. Aside from that, she's a real wealth of knowledge about anything around vaginal health and health and optimization around hormones, peptides. And that's what we invited her to talk about today, the link between hormonal optimization and peptide therapy and skin health. Should be a very interesting conversation, and we're very excited.
Yeah, I'm super excited for this conversation and for all of you guys to hear it. Not every day we bring a guest that is vaginal expert, vaginal health expert, peptides expert, menopause expert.
Yeah.
It's very cool.
But before we start,
we need to read a review.
That's right. So every episode, aside, if we don't forget, the reason we do it is twofold. First of all, to acknowledge the fact that you take your time and you leave a review and you share the love with us, and it's important to us. But really, we need this podcast to reach as many ears as possible, because what we're doing here is this is a free platform. We don't charge anything. We don't monetize this platform. The idea is to bring you what works around optimizing your health to optimize your skin's health. And we feel like this is our mission. We want to reach as many ears as possible. And, when you share this podcast, which we hear a lot of people say that they've heard about it because they have a friend who shared about it, or social media or something like that, or when you post a review, all of those things help the growth of the podcast. So we want to give back. So anyone who we read their review, you can reach out to us through service@younggoose.com or DM us on Instagram, young_goose_skincare, and tell us we read your review, and you're going to get a free product.
Yeah.
And without further ado, today's review.
Okay. This is the best podcast for cutting-edge information about longevity science and aging. This is not it, though. The friendly and humorous banter between the two hosts reveals how much love and respect they have for each other, and I really value that. I look forward to every episode. Thank you so much. Thank you.
And now, without further ado, please welcome Dr. Jennifer Berman. Jennifer, welcome to the Biohacking Beauty Podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
We're so excited that you're here. And as a top podcast in beauty category with kind of intersection and alternative health, we're going to dive into the first question that is also kind of like the number one asked question right now for us in our DMs and our emails. And it's, peptides are very trendy right now. It's the hottest topic I think there is. And with that, people really want to know.
And that's my personal vindication over Anastasia, because Anastasia was freaking out about me injecting peptides into my body like a decade.
Yeah,
and now everyone else is doing it.
It was over 10 years ago, and he was trying, because I was freaking out, he was doing it at night when I was like already asleep. And then I would find him in the kitchen with like barely any light, injecting his belly fat, and it looked weird. It looked like he's doing something wrong, and I just caught him doing it. It was not a good look. And
but he clearly was and is an early adopter. Probably not just of peptides, of everything. And it's his mindset. I actually am not an early adopter. I've recognized that of myself. But in terms of peptides, and for me, things have to be grounded grounded in science, that there has to be other people trying it first. I'm not the one to go out there. But in terms of peptides, what he has done, and based in his own mind and experience, he reconciled that there is sufficient evidence that these are naturally occurring proteins in our bodies. 10 years ago and now, we have peptides. Peptides are basically proteins that our bodies make. With aging, and in women, menopause and perimenopause, and in men, they call it andropause in men. Aging, with age, menopause in women, andropause in men, the quantity of the peptides that our bodies make and the quality of them declines. So in mid-age, he was ahead of his time, and he was probably using them to optimize wellness for physical fitness purposes, to build lean muscle mass, to decrease visceral fat, to improve glycemic control. He knew the benefits of that and understood the benefits of that way before it became mainstream. And so he's probably going to live longer. He's going to be healthier, and it's to his benefit. Today, when the rest of us are catching up, you, me, and everyone else, we will also get the benefits because we're technically starting early. We're not in assisted living in nursing homes right now. We're living vital lives. We're living productive lives. We still have our cognitive function. We still have our health, our fitness, our beauty, our sexuality. So peptides play I'm not going to say they play a critical role. They have a great deal of health benefits, especially in perimenopause. So you're mid to late 30s people and up, in terms of optimizing wellness and health, increasing, the performance and prevention of disease.
Yeah, and with that, so the what people really want to know is which peptides are the most evidence-backed for repairing skin, muscle tone, and I know it's not going to be the same one, but this is what they want to know: boosting metabolism and supporting overall anti-aging. So if you got
just to be clear, I want to be super crystal clear that peptides are not drugs at all, and they are not regulated by the FDA at all, and they're not approved by the FDA at all. That doesn't mean they're bad. That doesn't mean they're necessarily unsafe. But what that means is that me as a doctor, in terms of my recommending them, and I'm learning this myself real time, literally in the weeks and months going on, because there's a lot of movement and a lot of things and a lot of federal regulations, a lot of differences state to state. So now, as far as my practice concerns, me as a doctor here in California, I can only recommend peptides from medical grade peptides. The peptides that you're seeing online, even with I can't think of some of the sites, but you can buy, but you guys could be having a peptide line. So there's no regulations. Anybody could be selling peptides, and you'll see they're for research purposes only. So the selling of peptide, I'm not going to say those peptides are bad. That's not for me, because I can't say that. I don't know. And I'm not, and I've used those peptides myself personally and with my family. I'm not going to say those peptides are unsafe. I have no data to support that. And I've used those peptides and used those in my family. The only thing that I can say now today as a doctor, I cannot recommend to other human beings peptides that are for research purposes only. I can only recommend medical grade from certain 503B pharmacies. So if anybody is, for your viewers and listeners, I would recommend now for getting peptides that they go to a healthcare provider that has access to medical grade peptides, not for research purposes only. Those pharmacies, the compounding pharmacies that are compounding peptides that aren't 503 pharmacies they're going to be eliminated. So I do want to just say that and say that as a caveat. But going back to your question about which peptides, okay, for beauty, I like the one called GHKCU. GHKCU is a copper peptide. You probably see on Instagram and TikTok the Glow and Clo. So bundle or blend. They're combining GHKCU with other peptides, BPC 157, TB 500, and there's another one called Glow versus Glow. So what that does is it improves the collagen and elastin of your skin in your face and body, helps with skin texture tone, improves the pores, decreases fine lines. The TB 500 and the BPC 157 decrease inflammation. Anything that decreases inflammation is anti-aging and also increases the microcirculation to your skin, which declines with aging. So there is a blend, Glow Flow, or just plain old GHKCU, which is a copper peptide. It's blue. It looks blue, which makes it seems it's very recognizable. And that one is great for anti-aging and beauty. You mentioned one, what was the other one for inflammation or for building muscle?
Muscle tone.
Building muscle. And we call these, I like to call them HGH, human growth hormone secretagogues. So they increase your body's own production of growth hormone. My favorite one, there's a bunch of them, but my favorite one and the one that I see the most benefits with personally and with my patients is the CJC ipamorelin. And what that blend does, that CJC combined with ipamorelin, it decreases visceral fat in your belly, increases lean muscle mass, and it also, just as a side, because the growth hormone in your circadian rhythm helps with sleep. So my menopausal women and perimenopausal love that one. They love combining that one with, if they need to lose weight, with the GLP-1s, with, you know, Ozempic or Rituximab or what was the first one? Manjaro.
Yeah.
So that's lean muscle mass, beauty, and then
for metabolism
and
like overall anti-aging. Would you say just those all encompass, or you have anything else?
And then there I like the BPC 157. I have a lot of athletes, women athletes, tennis players, that really helps with recovery after exercise. Women with joint pain, aging, and menopause, people have flares of their rheumatoid arthritis, of their you know, achy joints, or people that have had injuries and hip replacements and back pain. And I also had older women and men. My husband is a lacrosse player, and he plays like in this old man lacrosse, like 70-year-old men. He's not 70, but really old guys that are still running around, still playing in Vail at altitude. He's loading up on BPC 157 now in preparation for that, and did it last year and noticed a great.
Shout out to Jackson, our producer, that talked to me for an hour about lacrosse until he understood. I understand nothing about it.
Really? I mean, it's a fast game. It's a rough, like they beat each other up and they're constantly falling and using a lot of almost like acrobatics.
Wow.
But there's also peptides that have, these are the ones I'm talking about. Like there's, my last, like for my menopause, we talk about beauty, weight loss, building lean muscle mass, pain, inflammation, and then sex. There's one for sex. And then there's also the brain, cognitive, so which is very important, especially to me, with aging, menopause, foggy thinking, memory, focus, concentration, being able to multitask and perform cognitively the way you were in your 20s and 30s. That gets worse with aging and menopause. And women that are in high-level jobs that are having to multitask, manage multiple things, manage people, manage their lives. I see, you know, many of them complain about difficulty with that, noticing that in the workplace, and it impacts their confidence and their performance. So there are peptides, and I'm a huge fan of these peptides, that help to enhance cognitive function, to prevent age-related cognitive decline and inflammation in the brain, and to enhance neuroplasticity. And my favorite ones are C-Link and C-Max. So those two. There's another one called cerebrolysin that a lot of people in like just mainstream regenerative medicine may not have heard of yet, because that one is used in traditional medical practices, in neurology practices for brain injury, traumatic brain injury, concussion, and stroke. So they're using that. They're using cerebrolysin IV. In what for my purposes, nobody is injured or stroked out yet or had a concussion. But from the standpoint of enhancement and prevention, cerebrolysin can be given. Now, this is one caveat with cerebrolysin compared to all the other ones. All the other ones, like you said, can be given sub-Q in your belly fat. Cerebrolysin needs to be delivered IV in the acute trauma setting, or for prevention purposes, and this is based on limited clinical research, but from what's available, intramuscular. So it can't be just given in your fat. So it is a little bit of a longer needle, and it does require, you have to put it in your gluteal region. So it's a little bit trickier and harder to do. And there is a specific protocol for cerebrolysin. You don't have to use that every day or 5 days a week. That's just like a 10-day interval. But I'm a huge fan of it from the standpoint of enhancement of neuroplasticity, cognitive function, and cognitive protection, especially in women that struggle with those symptoms or are at risk, have a family history of Alzheimer's or things like that.
And with cerebrolysin, could women, let's say in their late 30s already start using that experience like brain fog, maybe from, either recovering from pregnancy or postpartum?
100%. And that would be, so the mid to late 30s is technically perimenopausal, just by virtue of your age, regardless of what's going on with your period. That age is perimenopausal. And that's the age, by the way, when you need to start thinking about and doing these things. Because by the time you wait until you're menopausal, by then, you don't get the preventative benefits. You'll get symptomatic, you'll feel better, but you're not going to get the prevention of disease. It's very important. I didn't say that, so it's good you brought that up. Very important. It's not that there's nothing wrong with starting now. You need to start now in your mid-30s to get. This is when you start with peptides, and then hormones too, if you need.
Yes, I love what you're saying. I'm just gonna
go ahead.
Say one thing. Cerebrolysin is very tricky also from evidence-based point of view. It was very difficult to look at a healthy, I hate that term, a healthy population, because at the end of the day, if we're not optimized, are we healthy? That's the question. But looking at, non-chronic population and then trying to improve their results with cerebrolysin, it's very difficult since protocols are more challenging, as you mentioned. With CMAX and Cilank, it's almost like the opposite, right? And I would love for you to talk about the experiences around them. Why would you choose, for example, one over the other, and then why would one combine them, and what would be a telling sign where they need to, choose one over the other? Obviously, I'm talking about anxiety, etc.
Well, I combine them together. I don't even do one or the other anymore because I feel like they go hand in hand. One is more mood oriented than neuroplasticity, but they both go hand in hand. And there's a third one called, that I didn't mention, because that one, not a lot of companies carry it, and that one is more purely mood, called PE 22-28. That one definitely anxiety, mood elevating. But the CMAX together from the neuroprotect, so moodiness, the moodiness and irritability, either women will say they feel irritable and short fused, or we being depressed. A lot of that can be hormonally related, and we can regulate that with hormones. But about 40 to 60% of women that are optimized on hormone replacement therapy will still complain of feeling foggy thinking and these mood things. So the foggy and mood, in my mind, and I have no evidence-based reason, go together, which is why I combine those hormones. Feeling foggy and flat. I feel flat. I feel unmotivated. It's like there's either an anxiety element to it, or and I'm not even going to say just depressed, because and this is despite mood stabilizers. This has been studied actually. So with aging, menopause, and deficiency of estrogen, our brains are shrinking, we get moody, so how I got into all this was I read and learned about that part of the problem. Why are they still depressed? Why is it so, despite mood stabilizers? And this is where certain women, this 60% of women have a deficiency in glutamate production and brain-derived neurotrophic factor. So this 36, by the way, I think I might be one of them, that despite hormone replacement therapy, our brains are still not generating brain-derived neurotrophic and neurotrophic factor, BDNF, and glutamate. That's been proved there. So there are clinical studies that have shown that. In this population of women, they're using different things like cerebrolysin, ketamine. Ketamine is now been linked to, and there's studies that are ongoing at Stanford and Harvard, perimenopausal and menopausal women on hormone replacement therapy, off hormone replacement therapy. And ketamine sub-anesthetic doses have been shown to increase neuroplasticity, enhance cognitive function, and there's protocols for this. So after reading all of that and learning about that, that's how I was like, oh, so that makes sense. We're just like in the very beginning neonatal phase of figuring this out, especially as it pertains to cognitive function and neuroplasticity. But what I find most concerning, but also enlightening, is that it was the neuroscientists, not menopause doctors, not internists, not, and they weren't even United States people. The neuroscientists were the ones that broke the news and broke out with the information about hormones and the brain in women, hormones and longevity in women, hormones and the ability to function in the world in women. And neuroscientists are, they're a different kind of doctor. They're not treating human beings. It's a whole different field. And the fact that they were the ones that kind of broke the news. And still, what's also really troubling to me is that the medical community were still lagging behind. The FDA, the healthcare, the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, that's not what's creating progress. It's your podcast and human beings with social media. If social media did not exist, we probably wouldn't even be having this conversation. So because of social media, and women were talking to women, and they were like, wait, a lady in Europe and the lady in New York, and they're seeing like, oh, there's hormone. Wait, these symptoms are, I can't sleep, I'm moody, I don't want to have sex. There's a reason for that. They just told me like, this is what happens. And there's a movement that's been created by women. And by the way, it's also happening. So menopause is one movement. Hormones, the other one that's happening, I'm seeing right now. I don't know if you know about PCOS, polycystic ovarian.
We branded this PMOS, as I'm sure you know.
Premenstrual.
Like it's no longer PCOS, it's PMOS.
Yes, right. So I just saw that on, there was somebody posted that on LinkedIn. By the way, not Americans, no major voice. All of those studies are taking place in other countries. There's not a United States presence. There's not a United States thought leader, which is also really weird and
Hasn't
telling.
making enough money, I think. That's the
PCOS.
The PCOS and menopause were the same. PCOS is typically younger, but those women really suffer going into menopause. And then, but it's hormones, women and hormones and the imbalances associated with them being neglected by the healthcare community. And peptides, regenerative medicine peptides, alternative medicine doctors, all these people that have been out they've been out boots on the ground trying to help people, and we in the medical community, in the ivory tower and academia, we were calling it pseudoscience. We were calling it, pushing it aside. We were ignoring it, research purposes only. That would still be going on. Were it not for the fact with social media, people saying, wait a minute, whatever. And so now the medical community, myself included, is being forced, to address it and understand it.
I do have one question before we move on from, C-length, C-max. There is a concern, I think it's especially with men, but there is a concern of hair loss when using C-length and C-max. Is something that you have encountered? Is it something that you've had people complain about, or no?
No, but I'm glad you brought that up. I have had complaints with the GLP-1s.
Yeah. That's
hair loss, and definitely hair loss with in women with hair growth where you don't want it, and hair loss where you want it with testosterone. I have not seen or heard that related to C-length or C-max, but that's not to say that it hasn't happened, because I do have people complaining of hair loss, but I personally have not made the link to that peptide. But is there data about? I haven't seen that.
Yeah, there is some data. Obviously, their data around them is not, that great to begin with. But yeah, there's some data. There's some concern with hair loss.
Before we move to the next topic,
but you have to be sure. Let me just say one thing with the C-length, C-max. What I would do, it could be that I haven't noticed it. It could C-length might be causing my people's hair loss, but I'm blaming it on their hormones and the so those people that in those studies or those reports, we have to look at what hormones are they on, because hormone balance can optimize hair growth, and if C-length, C-max people weren't optimized, maybe that's why. If they were optimized, so there's lots of confounding variables that could be impacted.
So the question that I had, a lot of peptides that you mentioned at the beginning, something like GHK-Cu, it's a very popular peptides, BP 157, yes, and others. They're kind of like, as you said, you can see them on Instagram, and they're sort of widely available.
But I deem peptigram.
And there are some others that you mentioned, especially for the brain health, that, as you mentioned, it's more of like a medical, and it's a complex protocol. So for some of our listeners that don't have a healthcare provider that they can turn to, like a functional medicine doctor that would even know all of this information, where do they start of finding out if this is the right route for them and working with someone if they don't know? Like, how would they find a healthcare provider?
Well, there's the interesting thing is now, and again, I'm another generation. There is a new generation of physicians that are evolving right now that in telehealth, and and by the way, I didn't grow up with that. It's very new to me. I've resisted it. Part of me feels that it's not even real medicine. If you're talking to somebody like this, and especially telemedicine where you're not talking to any doctor, you're talking to an AI, and the AI is
talking to a quiz.
So, but I'm going to say, if I have had to, in my old age, adopt, and you either adopt and grow or behind. So in this adoption, I have understood that these telemedicine platforms, the good thing about them is that they have found the pharmacies. In order for them to stay in business and scale, they can't be screwing around with it. So they have found the 503B pharmacies. They have formed a coalition around them. They are prescribing hormones and peptides. So it's very easy in your city, wherever you are. I'm in the process as a dinosaur doctor of converting my practice.
You look so young, and you're so vital. And it's so funny when you keep referring to yourself as an older or even a dinosaur.
Listen, a dinosaur doctor is Ross from Friends, okay? You're not a dinosaur.
Oh, well, thank you. I feel like compared to that, I'm so much, these people are in their 20s, they're babies, and they're multi-millionaires there, and they're using technology to create change. And I feel like there's two different worlds. There's my world, maybe that I live in, that I'm walking around in and talking to people. There's a whole other world going on over there where they are, these 20-year-old, they're Gen Z and younger, 18 even, geniuses that are using technology in all fields, every field. I'm only noticing healthcare. And what they figured out how to do is to scale to the masses. So the small business little doctor like me in private practice that can only see, I can see 8 to 10 patients a day on a good day. And again, we can only see so many people. They have figured out how to see hundreds of thousands. And I'm not going to say that that's quality care, but from the standpoint of what we're talking about, people having access to peptides and hormone. I'm not going to say to use this for your, annual exams, or if you have health issues or sick, but for access to these preventative measures, that there are telehealth platforms that are associated with, and the one that I'm like, you caught me a little early, because the one that I'm using, the doctor, he went to UCLA when he was 13 years old. He graduated UCLA when he was 17. What? Then he went to Duke Medical School, and he graduated Duke when he was 24. He's now 28, and he has created a company called My Orbit Health, myorbithealth.com, which is a coalition of telehealth providers. So for doctors from all over, myself and many others, to be able to scale their practices in multi-state. So it's a multi-state mega PC telehealth platform, because I'm not licensed. I'm licensed in California. I'm not licensed in 52 states. There's apparently 100 doctors right now, and there's probably more, 100 of them, that are licensed in 52 states, and they're all together. They're like a little mob, and they are so they're licensed in 52 states, and they're offering telemedicine. So there's apparently, Hims and Hers and all these other telehealth platforms, but those telehealth platforms have funnel through there's 5 like gas and electric utility, there's 5 major hubs that service all these telehealth platforms. These 100 doctors are controlling offering the care to and they have doctors. It's almost like multi-level marketing, like Herbalife. That's how
I know you
multi-level,
like a pyramid, and I'm like, oh my God,
multi-level doctor.
That's what's happening. That's healthcare. So their main professional corps. Then under each doctor, that doctor has doctors and nurses that are seeing patients and they're doing thousands of patients a day. They're writing thousands of prescriptions, and the 100 of them are on all 5 different platforms. So these are multi-millionaire doctors, and I wouldn't even call them I was like, is that really a doctor? They're doctors. Many of them have practiced medicine. Many of them have never literally touched a patient. They went from medical school, right? My guy went right from medical school into tech. So it's a new way of handling patient care, but that's different, but necessary. And the other that I've gone totally off topic here, I'm going rogue, but the other weird thing that's going to happen with
people don't know that
thing is going to be, we worry about, the receptionist being replaced by AI, the social media manager being replaced by AI. Doctors, the regular run-of-the-mill doctor, stands a chance of being replaced by AI with robotics, because now with the telehealth, then you can funnel people to different centers, and that can scan just routine labs and blood pressure and heart rate. Yep. So you have triage. Maybe it's not going to replace doctors, but will replace nurses in triaging people then to whatever. The future, and I feel like this is happening in my lifetime, and also the other thing that's happening definitely in your lifetime, mine too, probably, is the ability to extend our age. That research with Peter DeSantis and the other one, I forget his name, it's already done. They're on the cusp of releasing it. Who gets it first? How it's played out, I don't know. But so we're going to be living longer. We're going to be living healthier. It's not just going to be access to wealthy people. It's going to be scaled across nationally. And once these 100 doctors, the gig is going to be up on them soon. And it's going to be, every doctor is going to be, able to.
You're referring to David Sinclair and
David Sinclair, yes.
Yeah. Basically, in their new FDA approval to look at age reversal in humans.
In eyes.
Yeah, starting with people with glaucoma, But the idea is to prove that through kind of reversing the information architecture of cells, like as you mentioned before, as we grow older, the information architecture is called the information theory of aging. Basically, your cells lose their ability to understand what they need to do. And the entire idea of Yamanaka factors, a guy named, whatever his first name, Yamanaka, found that there are like 4 proteins that can indeed reverse, if you get them to the right place in the DNA, they can kind of attach themselves to the original state of information and rewind cells back to their usual state. The reason there's so much caution around that is because if you get it wrong, you basically are becoming one big ball of cancer. And funny thing is that actually there are like studies in animals showing that only 2. So they've isolated one of the 4 Yamanaka factors to be the one that drives cancer the most. They kind of kick it out, and they're looking at 3 factors now. But in skin, it's interesting that they found that only 2 of the Yamanaka factors are really needed to reverse skin aging. Who gets it first? That's interesting. I think, not to go completely off topic, but the problem, when you look at like nuclear arms race, it's not only about the nuclear bomb. You need to have like the missiles to get it wherever you're going, right? God forbid. So here also it's how do you get it there, right? Like, is it CRISPR-Cas9? Like, how do you get it to the place that they need to go? So I think there's multiple layers until like young Goose will be able to create a cream where,
do you mean, how do you get it to the part of the body that you want it to? Like, they're saying like with stem cells, they just know where to go. Like you don't have, they're not legal here in the United States, obviously, but in Dubai, in Panama, there's 3 centers that I know Americans are going to. There's one in Mexico, one in Panama, one in Dubai, and they're using mesenchymal stem cells, Morton-Shelley stem cells, and stem cells from which way they're getting stem cells. And my question was, how do you know, especially if you have an injury, aside from injecting it into a joint, if they're being delivered IV in other countries, not here in the United States, but apparently they know where to go. And
they do.
And there are also different ways of like a little bit priming the tissue where you want it to go.
But that would be, you are correct to say that that you're correct. However, that would be adjacent, like Yamanaka adjacent. That wouldn't be necessarily like with the Yamanaka factors per se.
But you don't think they have receptors or that are...
No, it could be, but it is, there is a few issues with stem cells specifically, especially if they're not yours. Like the problem with yours is...
I was just likening how stem cells know where to go. These factors will do the same. I'm not sure. But...
No, these factors they definitely don't know where to go. Like you inject them locally, so they are there. right? But how do they go? Like, where do they go specifically? Like in the DNA, they need to be vectored basically. And that you can do with different ways. The issue is like, how do we get them, to an application that is specific? Let's say the skin, right? Like you cannot, you could kind of inject the skin, but it would be, are you going to microneedle them? And there's still like, issues that need to be solved on a delivery level, technically. And I'm not going to go to missiles again, but let's say Uber, Uber existed like way before, in air quotes, like Uber existed. It was like you go to Craigslist and you see who's driving to Miami from Fort Lauderdale and you'll hitch a ride. Wow. Uber is the platform that made it extremely accessible. So the platform's still missing, like the delivery platform's still missing. Very interesting. It's going to take probably a while.
Okay, so let's say we're thinking aging has to be applied directly to the skin, but the skin is a reflection. What's outside is actually what's going on in the inside. So if they can reverse the aging or add it's not going to say that we're going to look 10 years younger, but when we're 10 years older, maybe we'll stay looking like this. I would like to look 10, but that's probably what it's going to be, is that the anti-aging is from the inside. And because of all the factors and cytokines and neurotrophic factors and whatever the anti-inflammatory and pro-inflammatory, that is going on systemically is going obviously to impact the skin of my face, the skin in the mucosa of my gut, my vagina, my lungs, my respiratory tract, and then it will preserve what I've got probably. Making me look younger.
And I think this is
then they'll have topical ones that we can put on with microneedling and everything, and
even your your run-of-the-mill laser or whatever, right? Your average I want to say like inflammatory response, but basically like your average stimulation is just going to work so much better because you are on the inside a 4-year-old, right? So you react to everything much better.
Okay. So I think this is a great segue to the next topic, which the question that we have prepared is, to hear your opinion if there is a point in life where skincare alone cannot fix your skin if your hormones are not optimized. And to be honest, we kind of know the answer. Yes, there is a point where, skincare alone will not move the needle. So, it's a little bit of a longer way to ask the question, but I personally have a friend. She is 50. She's going to be 51 this year. She is very much a biohacker. She was early adopter of a lot of things, but all of more of a natural things within biohacking and longevity field. So, red light therapy, she's there, really like very conscious of her diet and exercise, lifting weights, like doing all the things right.
Yeah, crystals. I'm kidding.
But she didn't pull the plug on the HRT. And she's already 50. So she's had a year where like this year between 49 and 50 was when she was like, oh my God, I have hot flashes so much, like so often. And they're really, to her, they really ruined the quality of her life. She's a public person. She speaks a lot in public, and sometimes she can't focus because she just feels like, sweat is dripping on her face. And she's like, okay, also talks about beauty and stuff. And of course, it affected the quality of her skin too. Like you can actually see that, like wrinkles are much more noticeable, and all of the things she was doing do not work the same way. But she still is like wary of HRT. She's like, sort of like almost there, but she didn't do it yet.
Peptides, hormone, there's no difference. Peptides are naturally occurring proteins in your body. Hormones are naturally occurring proteins in your body also. They're, 17-beta estradiol, your ovaries are making, testosterone, your ovaries project. So if you're scared of hormones, you're scared of yourself. So I can't even wrap my head around that. But I can wrap my head around people that believe in, and I'm learning this and accepting it myself, that our bodies were designed and are designed to heal. And all of the illnesses and things that we're experiencing are in many ways created by us, due to our diet, due to our lifestyle, due to the stress that is creating inflammation in our body, especially the foods that we're consuming. And so there's a little bit of that. And people that can remain in a headspace of natural, and which she did, this lady did, up to, it's easy to do that. And when you can rely on skincare, over the counter and or prescription skincare products alone, that's in your 20s and early 30s. Anyone who thinks that, and you might like have a better and completely staying out of the sun, whoever can do that. So people in their 20s and 30s can rely on getting hydrofacials, using all sorts of skincare, maintaining their glow, and they can move into aging ahead of the game. Like, so they're in the top, percent, they're in the front, but they are going to age.
Slow aging.
They can slow it and do it a little better, and because they're conscious of it. And it may not even be the creams. It may be because they're consciously thinking, I want to be healthy, I'm taking care of myself, I'm eating well, I'm doing this, that their brain, because your brain, the diseases that we create are 90% diseases that we're thinking about. So they're thinking wellness. That's the problem with nutrition studies, why they can't do placebo control, because as soon as you know you're eating something healthy, your body changes. As soon as you think you're drinking a good drink, every cell in your body changes. That's why they can't do. So same thing with her and her cream. She's thinking, oh my God, I'm doing all this stuff, which impacts every cell in her body. Every cell in her body is going to act as if it's beautiful and it's doing well. That's proven. I'm not saying anything new. Hopefully you already know that. So now she's aging, and now she's starting to experience other things. Maybe now there's stress and other stuff in her life that she can't just rely on, okay, I'm well, that there's other things that are coming in, and she's starting to experience these symptoms. As soon as she experiences these symptoms, she's like, oh shit, maybe I'm not, maybe I don't have control over this, maybe. And so now she's a regular person. She's just not like you and me with everything. And she's experiencing symptoms. So she can continue with natural remedies. There are natural remedies, supplements, topical things, even peptides. But from the standpoint of hormones, if her hormones are out of balance, being out of balance, which is going to happen to all of us, those that don't suffer, there is I call them unicorns. There's a couple of unicorns that go through menopause seamlessly. I'm okay. Yeah, I had a hot flash or two, but it really wasn't that bad. And I'm sleeping, and
I never heard of those.
Very few women. Very few women. I can count them on 1.5 hands in the decades that I've been practicing medicine, experiencing that way. And those women are not only unicorns, but they think they function and live in that world of positivity. I'm in the, not allowing themselves. And then, so those are the unicorns. There's another group that are like the Soviet bloc warriors that listen, nothing like that'll come in and have like a specific thing. My vagina hurts. And there are hot flashes. Whatever, night sweats, whatever. Yeah, I had those. My joints.
I lived on a potato for 3 years.
They're like strong. They push through, pushing their potato car, like they're workhorses, and they have to be really broken and really run down and to complain. And then when those women make it in, I have one lady that's she's a contract.
And that's my friend, by the way. She's the Soviet one. So
is she? So
that explains why she didn't pull the plug in. She's like, I can get through it.
Well, that's it. They say I can get through this. A woman thing, like no big deal. And until something, I guess she's sweating and has to be on TV, and she doesn't like that or whatever. So that's like getting her to talk about it. And we can easily fix it. It's easily that problem. The hot flashes or night sweats or the sweating during the day. Is like a little puff. That's the easiest.
But Jennifer, but you're saying something, you started saying something in the beginning, which is so dramatically, meta shifting, like zeitgeist shifting, which is like, if you're suboptimal, that's already wrong. You talked about like, hormonal changes affecting anything from like, obviously like, the brain size to, we know you're aging faster just by having hormones that are out of balance. Like I want people to hear it from you where suboptimal is suboptimal, right? Like
suboptimal is bad. And if the main thing that I've picked up is in women, especially perimenopausal women, is that these symptoms creep up slowly. It's not like you're just all of a sudden hit over the head, and life is happening, and it's very easy to attribute these symptoms to other things, like, oh, my husband just lost his job, my son didn't get into University of Virginia, I have so much work to do, a wedding, but like all these extra, well, maybe, I'm going through a divorce, and that's what all of these, like a global pandemic, any outside thing that causes stress. Stress causes hormone imbalance, and stress causes all these feelings for you not to sleep, for you to blah, blah, blah. True, but so does perimenopause and menopause. So if you have hormonal imbalance and are compounding it with these outside factors, it's even worse. So that's what I really want to stress to women is if you're experiencing those symptoms, that don't minimize them. Don't attribute them just to stress or life or work. Yes, all of those things are contributing to it. But if you're in your mid to late 30s and up, you are also at a point in time where your hormones are fluctuating, if not declining. And if you want to optimize your wellness, your well-being, your longevity, your health, and prevent disease, you need to address that. And up until recently, all of these symptoms that I'm talking about were disregarded by the medical community. They were not considered medically relevant or deserving of medical attention. This is the course of my career. I'm now 60, so I went to perimenopause when I was 37. I'm now 61. So for the course of my entire lifespan, this is what I've been experiencing with my peers out there. I've built a career based on their neglect. Now everybody's woke to menopause and hormones and peptides, not because of the medical community, but because of you guys, because of your podcast, because of social media, because of the women out there that are talking to each other and saying, wait a minute, what the F? Like, what this is like, there's a solution to this and nobody's telling me. And so you're saying, where do they go? I'm saying, I don't know, because there is, and if I'm having to refer people to telehealth platforms, it's pretty bad. And so they can all call me, but I'm only one lady and I only have 8 hours in the day, which is why I'm scaling also. So the goal is to find a healthcare provider, a medical doctor, nurse practitioner, regenerative medicine doctor, whoever it is, that understands hormone imbalance, and that is familiar with peptides. So you say HRT and peptides. When I go and Google in Florida, and if you look at West Palm Beach hormone expert, one thing is they can do, there's a company called Biote, Biote, which is, they're a they were the ones that created the Biote pellets for hormone replacement therapy in men and women. They've now expanded into regenerative medicine, anti-aging, peptides, and they're treating armies of doctors, mostly OBGYNs, some plastic surgeons, but they're training doctors in hormone replacement therapy and regenerative medicine. So if you in Palm Beach were to look for Biote provider near me, those are doctors that speak this talk and walk this walk. But
that's very actionable for our listeners. Thank you so much.
And I agree. It's coming full circle to what you said before about working with a provider. Here are a few things that we didn't say but are important. First of all, protocols change. 99% of people in the field up to like a year ago didn't know about the glow and close stacks, for example, which is basically like, as you said that before, clo is just KPV plus what you said before. Even times of day or times a week, like protocols of using those peptides changed. I was talking to the person who actually owns the patent for a peptide called MOTS-C. Shout out to Pinchas Cohen, Dr. Pinchas Cohen. And he's like, dude, to be honest with you, all of our studies were done when people were injecting it twice a day. And now I see online people saying, inject it 3 times a week. I don't know where they got this protocol from, as an example. Another one is times on and times off. The reason I think medical supervision, advisory, whatever you want to call this, is non-negotiable, is that most peptides work on eliciting a response in the body through interacting with receptors. And these are getting occupied and kind of attenuated, like the response is changing over time. And you can get to a place
tolerance,
where
when you build up tolerance, you mean?
It's called like receptor occupancy or attenuation of response, where basically like it's more than the sensitivity of the receptor is getting diminished. So
well, that's why they say to cycle them, to go on, to use them 5 days, like here.
Yes.
Saying 5 days a week, weekends off, and cycle. Do like a month or 2 off, a month off,
but
3
it changes.
months.
It doesn't only change between peptide to peptide. I think it, like, people go on GHKCU for a month and they say, hey, I didn't see anything. GHKCU is the slowest peptide to even show an effect. It takes 6 months for you to even know what's going on. People are abusing, you mentioned the sex peptide before. I'm assuming you meant like P141. P141 is a derivative of is it
melatonin?
Melanotan, people can abuse like crazy. And it can make, it's the kind of the Barbie peptide, it's called, or the Hollywood peptide, because it makes you darker, but it can cause pigmentation. It could, have some other issues. So I think having someone who, like yourself, for example, someone who is deep in the conversation, it's an ongoing conversation, who is like a conduit to what's going on now in the world, and not necessarily trusting, in the peptagram, some influencer that is very driven by their agenda, for that matter, is very important, in my opinion.
And I will add to that as you know, but I want our listeners to hear that again, that the peptide stack that works for your girlfriend, even your sister, sometimes might not work for you. So it's so important that you start low and slow, and you ideally, in our eyes, paramount, non-negotiable, that you have a medical provider to guide you through it, that also has ideal years of experience like yourself, and not a 20-year-old, maybe the genius one that went to UCLA at 13. I'll take my bet on that guy, but other girls,
everybody does respond differently. We've checked with peptides and hormones. There's not a one-size-fits-all cookie cutter, and that's the problem with telemedicine too. So the one-size cookie cutter does not work, especially for women, as it pertains to menopause and peptides. Men are a little bit easier, but them too. There's genetic.
Okay, with that, we are almost at time.
No, I'm imploring you. We're supposed to have rapid fire questions, but I'm imploring you to choose like 3.
Sounds good.
Or 2 or 3.
Sounds good. So it was such an interesting conversation. And now we usually wrap up our episodes with rapid fire questions. So those, you feel free to answer in a rapid manner. It's more like they make really good for social media clips and stuff. Okay. First one. What's the biggest mistake women make when it comes to aging and their hormones?
Minimizing the symptoms and blaming them on other things.
I like this one.
You can ask it.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate your approval. Is there a menopause biotype that determines the best anti-aging approach for each woman?
That's my menopause biotype. Did you specifically ask that for me? There is
Yes.
a menopause biotype. It is available on my website, bermansexualhealth.com, that does help women navigate menopause, understand their symptoms, understand how they're going to metabolize hormones, and understand and know their risk factors associated with hormone imbalance, which will be good for them and helpful to their providers. Thank you.
Okay, next one.
I like it. It's like, when we used to, in my old days, when we used to hire people, we used to get them through we used to basically have a type of their how they handle pressure, how they do that, and they get like a archetype. So it's kind of that for hormones. Nice.
Okay, what's the biggest misconception about vaginal health and aging that you want to clear up?
The misconception about vaginal health, women don't understand two things. What's good for your face is good for your vagina. The vagina ages in a similar way, that they need to use it or lose it. Same thing that applies to men, that the more sexually active they are, the more engaging in sexual activity, the better the health of the tissue. And that, that vaginal dryness and urinary tract infections are associated with hormone imbalance. Women, like young women, might be starting to develop urinary tract infections and not even realize that it's due to hormone imbalance. And birth control pills. This should have been my rapid fire. Birth control pill. If you're mid to late 30s, experiencing UTIs, and are on hormonal contraceptives, that could be one of the reasons why.
Okay, we have an audience question, which is how do you change the vaginal microbiome in the most effective way? And then subcategory was if the person is pregnant, would the approach change?
Well, the thing about the microbiome, your vagina is a self-cleaning oven. So it keeps itself balanced on its own. Things that interfere with that are birth control pills and aging and menopause, and putting perfumed, douching, things along those lines. Some women also have an allergy or irritation to sperm. That's a whole nother, certain sperm, that's a whole nother conversation.
Yes, douching is when you hang up with douches, right? That's douching.
Yeah, douchey guys will give you bad vagina problems. Sure. And also urinary tract, and that. So the douching, putting fluid up there, that perfumed soaps and other things changes the microbiome. Aging and menopause. What happens with age, menopause, and if you're taking birth control pills, the pH, the acidity of the vagina changes. It becomes more alkaline, less acidic, which then predisposes you to getting yeast infections, vaginal infections, urinary tract infections, and other things. So we want to keep the vagina more acidic. It does that on its own, taking probiotics, eating a healthy diet, and not douching, not doing things and hormonal contraceptives will alter the vaginal flora also.
And last question, red light therapy in the vagina, game changer or
well, red light therapy, I'm a huge fan of red light therapy for all the reasons that everybody already knows. In the vagina, we're using, at least from in my perspective, my practice, the FDA approved devices that we have are radio frequency heat therapy, which is a game changer. In fact, a game changer for me as a urologist, because before, especially not just for vaginal health and lubrication, arousal and elasticity, making it tighter, making it prettier, but from the standpoint of function, urinary function, and stress incontinence and leakage after babies, these therapies are helping to treat that. Whereas before, we would immediately have to take these people to surgery to do slings and lifting. Now these therapies are now these minimally invasive red light / radio frequency heat therapies are the first line of therapy, minimally invasive, no downtime, no pain, and are extremely effective and FDA approved.
Do you think they're better as far as as far as leakage, etc.? Are they better than TCL? What's the TCL machine called? The one that does it with electrical magnetical pulses.
The Emsella chair, with high intensity focal electromagnetic. That's a fine treatment for the pelvic floor. So the pelvic floor is hammock. So, and your core, that company BTL makes
Yeah,
Sculpt
PTL.
abdominal muscle and Cella for your, so core to floor there, which is great, but that's not like vagina specific. That's pelvic floor, which is also important. So women with stress urinary incontinence, that helps the pelvic, lift and support your pelvic organs. These other ones are in the, like literally Kegel, like right at the Kegel muscles, tightening those. That the Cella does too, but BTL has another one called MFEM. So MFEM, so with the Cella plus the MFEM, which targets right into the vagina, the Kegel muscles and the anterior, the urethra, the anterior pelvic wall and pelvic floor. So we can get a macro approach with the Cella and like more of a micro approach with some of these other technologies. And it's the whole,
Okay, you see, I asked you to ask 3 and then I asked 11 questions.
No, we're great. I think those were interesting rapid fire questions. And I did want to talk about vaginal health, and conversation took us elsewhere. Maybe we will bring you back to dive more into that. We would love to have you again. But I'm glad that we actually ended up talking about both and give some advice there.
Just want to say, I think the Cella, their slogan should be "We-raise the ceiling on."
That's right.
Okay.
Raise the ceiling to the floor. Lift the ceiling.
Yeah, exactly.
They ought to hire you. That's a good slogan.
Jennifer, thank you very much. Where can people learn more? Maybe reach out. Like, how do people?
Yeah. So my website is bermansexualhealth.com. It's in the process of being updated and renovated by the 28-year-old team. And then my Instagram is at Jen Berman MD. You can also reach me at my office at any time. We're pretty much covered all the time at 310-772-0072. They can email me directly at office@drjenberman.com, DRJENN, 2 N's, Berman.com. We respond to all emails. We can send you more information. We can direct you to healthcare providers in your area. We can set up a consultation, help you get your blood drawn. We now have a home blood drawing kit. You don't have to go to LabCorp or Quest anymore. We can do it at your home with these little pinpricks. It's not even have to draw it out of your vein, which is huge for
with
many
a little
patients.
leech.
Like it's there's like a pinprick, but there's like five and just goes prick. Doesn't really hurt. You take it off, put it in a bag, send it. And the cool thing is, from my standpoint, better than LabCorp or Quest, which takes 7 to 10 business days to get all the results back. You get the results back from that within 3 to 4 days. So it's really made, improved the speed at which we get the test back and the amount of things that people don't have to get 5 tubes of blood or leave their home.
Wonderful.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much for such a lovely chat. That it was lively and it was lovely, and we just love how much passion you have for everything you speak about. You live through it. You educate. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you.
Are you a couple, the two of you? I'm sensing.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so nice. You can work together and age together beautifully. All right. Well, congratulations.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. We hope to talk to you again.
Yeah.
Well,
bye.